Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sequel Pitch episode 56. I'm your host this week, Matt Rushton, and joining me are two warriors who are sharpening their vibranium claws and getting ready to strip down to their underwear and get very sweaty. It's General Ross Harmston.
Oh,
hello.
Shit. Hello. You threw me. Shit.
Caught you there, didn't I?
Yeah.
And
literally caught us with our pants down.
Put it
that's
away.
later.
God.
Later, Andy. Gosh. And there you go. Of course, joining us also is our Wakandi Henry.
Hey, hello.
Hello, gents. How are we both?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, pretty good. Good intros. Well done.
Thank you very much. So, Drew is a bit busy working with Shuri on some new Wakandan stealth tech, so isn't with us today, I don't think. So if it wasn't obvious this week, we are diving back into a cinematic world with more drama and chaos than British politics right now. We are going into Marvel's Black Panther.
Topical. There you go. Even though this is going to air probably when the whole government's just imploded.
It'd
and
still be shit. Then.
Something tells me drama's only going to get worse from where we are recording this now. We're still in October recording. Who knows what state the country's in when you're hearing this. But anyway, as always, to help you remember how good this movie is, because it's definitely going to get recommended, the host, that's me, has the challenge to summarise this movie in 60 seconds. A nightmare when it's a film like this, but hey-ho, here we go. Fresh off the tragic events of Captain America Civil War, Prince T'Challa, aka Black Panther, is next in succession to the kingship of Wakanda. T'Challa fends off a challenge to his throne in combat with M'Baku of the Jabari tribe. We then learn through flashbacks the previous king, T'Chaka, sent his brother to the USA to learn of their ways undercover. But he became disgusted with the treatment of black Americans and wanted to equip them with Wakandan tech to level the scales. His best friend and confidant turned out to be Wakandan, and he was reporting back to the king the whole time. There's a ruckus in which the king kills his brother, leaving his orphaned nephew still in the US. We skip to today and we learn that his son is now a uber-scary assassin and has a grudge after his uncle's death. He finds a way to Wakanda through Ulysses Claw, Andy Serkis, who comes back again, whom of course he kills off, and eventually Killmonger is his name, beats T'Challa in combat, and we now presume T'Challa's dead. Turns out, obviously, he's not, it's Black Panther. He and Killmonger re-engage in one-to-one combat, whilst the tribes who've sided with their preferred leader also do battle. Killmonger is finally bested in combat by T'Challa. They share a very respectful moment before he dies in the sunrise. Yeah, it is sunrise. Before they die, seeing the sun rise. Closing, we see T'Challa opens the first Wakandan International Outreach Center in California as Wakanda opens their international relations for the first time. Oh, and of course, there's post-credit scenes. Wakanda is a nation of farmers. They're asked what can they offer the world with a smirk from King T'Challa. And then we see a familiar face who's had some time to cool off after his last outburst. That's alright, we get Sergeant Barnes back. So, that is the biggest nutshell I could fit that movie in, boys.
That was good.
Yeah.
Quite a poignant movie, obviously for a number of reasons we're going to touch on, but initial thoughts and feelings. Ross, what do we think?
Rewatching this, I haven't watched it for a while, and rewatching it, I fucking loved it. I was like, oh my God, I love, it's just such a different Marvel movie. They really draw on the East African sort of traditions, and it's just a breath of fresh air when you're watching it for a second time. You're like, fucking hell, this is so poignant, and there's some really lovely moments. And Chadwick Boseman again is performing, and he's got such a good, strong supporting cast in this movie. You know, his mother, his father, and Shuri, obviously, and his girlfriend, kind of ish. And I can't remember her name. The guard, the head general. Her as well. I loved every bit of it. This one, and I think weirdly, because the actor sadly passed away, it makes it even more memorable. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think we'll come on to a couple of your points after it. Let's get an idea what Andy's initial thoughts are.
Yeah, again, like Ross, I haven't watched it in a while, and then watching it again, and everyone's saying, Killmonger was one of the first best, if not still the best, Marvel villain, and people can relate to the story. I forgot about that and how, just how much of the film is taken up, and how, I guess, right is subjective to say, but right you can say he is, or how much you do kind of like lean towards him, and I loved how much they took African inspiration and stuff, and it was a good turn for an MCU movie, and then we did kind of have a big fight at the end, which I think now with like things like She-Hulk that has just come out, I think we may be, I don't know, it depends on movies and stuff, because I quite enjoyed this whole big battle, but I was like, oh, it's so predictable, and I don't know if it was needed so much, but still very enjoyable and great to watch.
We're in a time now where Disney TV obviously exists, and we're seeing these epic TV series now from Marvel. So this is before that. It comes out before that. I think you touched on it. Michael B. Jordan for me kills the role. Like, he's incredible in it, but it is such a stellar cast.
He looks like he's sculpted out of clay. Jesus, I could not train as high for years, and I could not just get a bicep my side like his size.
Well, I'm going to look at what you do for training, mate.
I got to put actually weights and not donuts. That would probably help. But
I think it's like, because now watching it, you're like, fucking hell, this was probably the first movie where Marvel went, no, we're going to go really into the traditions of, African culture and stuff. Then obviously you've got like, it paved the way really for like, Shang-Chi to really like do different traditions in what would be the normal
respecting culture, isn't it? We're moving away from putting it bluntly, we're moving away from the Caucasian culture. We're starting to step into new worlds.
Yeah,
new
that's
territories.
what I was.
That I feel like go on.
But also the crew. Sorry, I was gonna say just the crew as well. And I guess with like Shang-Chi and stuff like that, like a lot of the crew wasn't Caucasians and stuff like that. Like Ryan Coogler was a black man, did this. I'm pretty sure it was written by him and another black man. So it was a big. I don't know. I don't want to say big change, but the starting change and where everything was starting to become less white males.
I think this leads into you can't not talk about this, I guess, because it's 2018 Black Panther releases. The world's in a very confusing place at the time. How important were how delicately did Marvel handle the politics and the culture in this movie? Because it's so proud of everything that was done both on and off camera was inspiring, was driving forward equality and diversity. Like, do you feel like it landed at the right time? Obviously, there were plenty of critics about this when it was kind of dropped because of the state that the world was in. Like, how important do you think it was that someone like Marvel was seen to be doing something like this in a Trumpian era, in a world that was becoming more and more divisive with Brexit in the UK and stuff like that as well?
I think like Disney definitely had to change their marketing, and like, because there hasn't been representation like that for years and years in the superhero world, as well as just normal films. So I think that it came at the right time for Marvel to go, and Disney technically, to go like, no, we need to start being a little bit more culturally diverse in our films, because most of them about fucking rich white men, who have daddy issues, and it's nice to see an all black cast and things like that, and I think it came at the right time. Like, it showed Hollywood as well, like we don't have to whitewash our cinema, I think, for a film to be successful, if that makes sense.
And of course, the joy of this is that Black Panther wasn't a character written for this movie. The Black Panther comic series is decades old as well, so you can't kind of claim that there's it's cliches. It's not. It's just Disney and Marvel opening that anthology and picking a character at a perfect time. Andy, how do you kind of feel like they handled the politics and culture of it in the movie?
Well, yeah, it was
It was
Trump,
around.
really,
Well, I mean,
when
there
this came
was
out.
certainly
It's hard to...
probably they started filming this 2016, so maybe not. When was Trump? Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time googling it.
It's blocked it out.
But,
blocked it, but
we were in a world where
I mean,
there was certainly issues with Black Lives Matter and stuff, both sides of the pond for the UK and certainly in the US. So
I think it was huge because like, especially Marvel movies, but comic book movies are loved and watched by so many people that they obviously are influenced and will watch people. And yeah, it's nice to have representation on there, but it's nice for to kind of show, like, apart from Everett Ross, the one white guy in, which you gotta get one in there, a whole black movie which can do well on its own, and past $1 billion, I think, which may be in the first one. And again, it's got nothing to do with its like a black cast. It's just a great movie and a great script and everything like that. So I think it was huge for, like, especially Marvel as well, for all the kids that watch it, to go, we've done, I don't know, maybe 10 years, or not 10 years, but however long it was up till then, it was just white guys and a few white ladies. So great things for people to see and learn and stuff. And it just brought, you had the different culture, but also the music was different in this than a typical Marvel movie. So in terms of broadening people's minds, it was great.
I think it really, really does. I know I said it before, but like, I think it did pave the way for, when you think about, like, when it came out and the subsequent movies after, like, that's why this movie's so important in general, like, for Marvel and Disney, in a sense, like, we've now got these films that are culturally different. We've got female leads. We've got Black Widow. We've got like an entire, like, TV show dedicated to She-Hulk and stuff like that. And I think that Black Panther has a lot to answer.
Certainly take a lot of credit.
Like,
credit.
That's what I mean. Yeah. To take a lot of credit for those movies.
Indeed. Just to put it in there, the first Black Panther series of comics was launched in 1973. So, I just want to take away from, obviously, that plays such a crucial part, but such an amazing part in the film. If we were to strip away all that politics, all that cultural exterior, as a Marvel, as a Marvel comic movie, do you feel like it still holds up? Do you feel like you kind of blinkered by the kind of messaging and by the outer layers of it? Like, when you strip that away and you've got it just as a comic book hero movie, Andy, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, no, because I think, let's say, with the whole third act, but you've got, like, a good redemption, I guess, for Black Panther, and for a comic book movie, I think it was fine. It made me even a bit brave because the focus is shared between him and Killmonger, if not more on Killmonger.
Yeah.
For like, the first solo Black Panther. But no, I think if you took all that away, and you even took the story about him kind of feeling betrayed by his own people, if you took that away and it was just some guy, fighting the bad guy, I think it still would have been good.
Yeah, I think, like, you've got a lot of, like you said, Andy, like, you've got a lot of time to focus on the bad guy and the villain. Like, he's given enough time and enough backstory for you to actually, like, go, okay, I can see, like, his side, but also I can see why he is the villain of the piece. Like, a lot of these movies now struggle with, having those bad guys, introducing a bad guy, having enough time for us to give a shit about them. Like, that's why a lot of those movies, like, up until the point, you don't remember half the bad guys. You've got Thor: Dark World, you've got forgettable bad guy. You've got
Yeah.
Thought,
it was
Iron
low-key.
Man...
It was only low-key people were liked up till this point, wasn't it? Everyone else was literally forgettable. So
you've got like
it's nice to
Mickey Rourke
in
Iron Man 3 and stuff like that. And
but all those people as well saying like they're not remembered is because I think if most of them, if not all of them, die at the end, including Killmonger.
Yeah.
So you can't carry on the story. You can't even kind of like want him to come back and all that. Like his story is literally you only can remember what's in the film, and then, like hopefully they're going to stop doing that and just like stop killing off the bad guys because unless it's needed in the story, which this one's debatable because of the end line about being buried in the sea with the ancestors. Great.
I do wish that they didn't kill Michael B. Jordan off. I felt that he could have had a lot more. That's my only gripe with the movie is I feel like there was enough there for him to survive or some way.
100%.
Like,
they save Martin Sheen. Michael Martin Sheen? Which one?
Martin
Freeman. Not Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
It's neither of them. It's Martin Freeman. So many Martins.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's funny saying that because it might come back to haunt me in my pitch, but I've got plans. But if the hero doesn't kill the bad guy, if the bad guy does get away, is that still a victory for the hero?
But I think that it would have worked for his character to have saved him, like because he's like because he's.
But
like,
he did offer, I guess.
Yeah, he did go. He goes, "We can save you," and he's like, "Nah." He's like, "All right, see you later."
You lose.
Yeah, and so I don't mind that death so much. And I say, like, I think it had to happen in this film because of the way it did happen and all that lot. But like in so many other Marvel ones, especially with the villains that have only been in one film. Yeah, when you kill them off, they're just so forgettable. Like Whiplash might have been cool if he came back in another movie or two. So
this like
maybe not.
We already know coming up next year and in the future we're going to keep seeing Baron Zemo at the moment and whatnot. He's the perfect example of keeping the villain alive because there's so much more that you can do. We saw him in Captain America and Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're going to see him again coming into future projects next year and onwards. So,
I think the best example of that is Abomination and She-Hulk. Whether you like it or not, like they didn't kill him off, and they were just like, "Oh, we need someone, who the audience kind of already know at this point." And you do have a great character, and him in that arc works and stuff. So yeah, rather than just having a random human or like a new hero that they introduce that does nothing. Yeah, just stop killing people off, Mark.
They seem to be moving more away from it, don't they?
Let villains live. Come on.
I think on a kind of, without meaning it to be a link through to the next point, but we do kind of have to take a moment with Black Panther to acknowledge Chadwick Boseman and such tragic loss of life, losing such an incredible actor so young. I don't know if this is the first time you've seen it since, but I remember watching Black Panther the first time after the news and kind of still watching it now, watching it before this episode. Like, there's just, like, for me, there's an ethereal quality about seeing him in this role and completely encapsulates for me what T'Challa, what Black Panther was and what I expected. Like, Ross, how have you kind of found the transition for it?
Yeah, I think, like, when he's on screen as Black Panther, he just seems so in the role and so natural as the character, as I could not see anyone else playing him.
Yeah.
And anyone else playing that character, if he got ever recast, I couldn't see that happening because he made that role his own.
100%.
And you can tell, that he was a good actor from all the jobs that he got after Black Panther, but also before as well. He was. It's a shame because he was going to probably be his career was probably going to shoot to the sky had he survived. Had he if he carried on. But yeah, I don't know. I think watching it now, you're just like, oh fucking hell, you just like he's got that air of Robert Downey Jr., if that makes sense, like in his role. How
he's a presence on screen.
Yeah,
definitely.
how Tony Stark was so Robert Downey Jr., I feel T'Challa was so Chadwick Boseman.
There you go. He was that good. His character became the actor.
yeah, exactly.
You're nodding completely.
Yeah, he definitely was the best person for the role, and I can't imagine anyone else. It's definitely it's interesting and definitely a bit emotional watching it now. He's past watching him in this kind of character where he's like a king and he's like looking after people and he's doing a good job and everything like that, rather than watching him in some of his other roles. This one, it does hit a bit harder because you are like, just because maybe just because he is like a king and he's trying to be just being a good person, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's
fully in agreement with both. It's a terrible loss, but we could probably say we were all better for seeing him in this role and that he got to shine in the way that he did. So we're a podcast that looks at sequels, that looks at what comes next. Just kind of on that, before we get into your own pitches, obviously we are just around the corner when you're hearing this from seeing Wakanda Forever. Moving forward, I've got 2 questions for you, and they may be the same answer. But Ross, what do we want Marvel to do with the sequel, and what do you expect Marvel to do with the sequel, if they're different?
I want them to spend most of the movie giving props to T'Challa and having that, potentially maybe in my sequel, but like having that gravitas and the reflection of losing him in the MCU and as an actor as well. I want them to have a lot of emotional, like you see it a little bit in the trailer anyway, but like a lot of emotional speeches from like the characters that draw on real, like it feels real. Like, do you know what I mean?
Are you expecting that from them?
Yeah, I think they like, judging from the thing that I think they are. Again, it has to have something in it that, like, that's why Namor and all that stuff is in it, and yeah, I guess like it'll be interesting to see how they go about crowning the new Black Panther and how they go about, whether it is Shuri or whether it is, or multiple people take on the mantle of Black Panther. Yeah, I hope that it's going to be emotional, and I expect it to be.
Are you confident enough to put a feeling on who you expect to be the new Black Panther?
I think I went from obviously Shuri, but I think multiple people could take on the mantle.
There we go.
Of Black Panther, but I'd like it to be Shuri.
You heard it here. Because Andy, exactly the same question to you. What do you want Marvel to do with the sequel? What do you expect them to do if it is going to be different?
All right. So remind me of what Ross said at the end, because that brings something up. They would definitely be respectful, because I'm sure they would have worked with. They would have got the best writers on. They probably would have worked with Chadwick's family or something, maybe, to see if they think this is good. What I want them to do, because this is different. We've had like the death of Loki, which is a character in a film, but this is the death of an actor, and I don't want half an hour, 40 minutes of like the Black Panther sequel dedicated to like a funeral or like in a with sounding bad. I don't want to dedicate it to him, basically, because it's like that could even be its own. Because if we are going down the route of the Black Panther is dead, then that surely would be like in the comics when like weddings happen, that would have all the Avengers, all people. There would be a big funeral and stuff, and that would take a lot of time. And to do it respectfully, I think you couldn't do it in like 20 minutes, because then you get like, if it's going to be Shuri, who I think it is, then the second film is kind of a bit like the first. It's a bit of an origin story again. There's different ways of going about it. Hint, hint for my pitch. But I almost wish they do what I do in my pitch, is something happens which takes T'Challa away for the movie. And then, because we know I think it was today that we Harrison Ford is, because William Hurt unfortunately died as well. Harrison Ford has now replaced him. So Marvel can and do replace characters. They didn't do it straight away because it was just not respectful, and I think maybe you already had half the script written or something like that. But I wouldn't be so surprised if they took T'Challa away somehow in like a montage at the beginning, and then maybe he's recast and comes back in the third.
Feels a bit Fast and Furious 7 there. But like sending him off on one last quarter mile.
Different road.
Yeah. It happens in my pitch, and for a reason, and it's actually from a comic book. So if they do something like that, and it makes sense, then and then again, like recasting someone, is that considered respectful or not? They've done it before, so without trying to sound respectful, they could do it. And if it's going to be the third Black Panther and the last one, and maybe he's got another Avengers movie in him or something like that, then they could just have a guy in a mask most of the time. But I wouldn't be surprised, is all I'm saying, if I don't think it's going to be many people. I don't think it's going to be like so I don't think it's going to be many Black Panthers in the second one, because one, that'd be hard to do and just write, I think. And the other reason is, do they actually have any of the heart-shaped herbs at the end?
They'll probably
burns them. I'm sure they've got like the original one that they've kept safely in a box and stuff like that. But like, at the end of the movie, I was a bit like, obviously they didn't know Chadwick was going to die and stuff. So they are a bit like, we kind of shot so from the, but I'm sure like the very first plant that sprouted from it or something they've got in a glass case, and they give it to Shuri.
Thought could be an interesting thing is they play on the fact that actually you don't need the plant.
She's very techie, so that could be it. But she's also mortal. That's the thing with. I mean, Black Panther is mortal, but like obviously he gets this.
It doesn't really. You don't really know what he. It's basically he gets strength,
power,
I guess,
senses, and speed. So
still only human.
Kind of like, and you do. Yeah, but you do need that in like a fight. That's how he could like fight, I don't know, Spider-Man or something like that. So it'd be interesting. Again, there might be an option to go down Shuri, Black Panther of just a tech-based suit. But then again, is that not just Iron Man? And are they not doing that with Ironheart? Possibly coming
there you
up,
go.
So.
I think that sums it up, doesn't it? Like two quite different opinions and two quite different wants. Marvel have got their work cut out with Wakanda Forever, I think. And I think they've known it. There have been delays to the movie. There have been replans and probably reshoots. Ultimately, and I hate to say it, it's probably not going to be a movie that pleases everyone. Like they will have to make decisions of who they're trying to please and what they want out of the movie. It's going to be epic. It's strap your seats, and I think it's going to be a long one.
Yeah, they've said it's the second long. I think it's 2 hours and 47 minutes or something.
There you go. So basically, the only one shorter
then you could probably put a Black Panther funeral in that and still have enough for. But
I mean, judging by the trailer, I think there is a funeral and stuff, and the mother. Yeah, I don't know. There must be a funeral.
Either way, bloody excited to hear your pitches. I'm bloody excited to hear the film. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to watch it. Yeah, we're into our scores. Go on then, Ross. Give us your final verdict and your scores, please, mate.
Great performances, great moments. One of my favorite scenes is Black Panther talking to his father in the ancestral plane. Fucking love that. Both those scenes, and him like his dad saying, "Come on, it's time to join me now with the rest of the other Black Panthers," and he's like, "No, I'm not ready." And then that bit's fucking cool. Fight scenes, the music, the mixture of like hip hop, but also like African music as well, and just because it's different, and I love that. So I'm going to give it 5 Black Panther villagers standing on the edge of a fucking rock, and they're watching, not knowing how the fuck they got up there. Also, how they're going to get the fuck down out of 5.
That's amazing. I mean, that shield, I love the shield that protects him because there's so many questions. It is like if a traveller just walked and just kept walking and then suddenly walked through it, like what would happen? Would they kill him? Would they just be like, you didn't say anything and pay him off? Or just like, could you walk into it? Or would you hit a force field and then be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
My head. Oh, it really hurt. What was it?
Yeah. Is it literally on the border of Wakanda and stuff? So if you look like a graph in like the lines that cover the country, is it just there? As soon as someone walks over, they hit their head.
Yeah.
God, Andy, carrying it on. What's your final verdict?
Yeah. Loved it. Loved the story. The only problem I have with the story is his best friend's motivation for turning on him. Wakabi, I think. Yeah, Wakabi. Because he's like, when he gets crowned king, he's like, right, you go kill Claw. Claw as well, we haven't mentioned. He's very controversial. People hate him or love him in this movie. I didn't mind him. He was weird.
Andy Serkis.
Yeah. He had some stupid lines, but, you know, he was... well, I had fun watching
Served
him.
the purpose of him being the...
Yeah, but then T'Challa doesn't take Claw back, and then his friend's like, but you promised, and it's a bit like, one, dude, it's my first day as king, give me a fucking chance. 2, T'Challa doesn't even tell him like what happened. Like, we did have him, but then something else happened, and Ross got shot, so we had to either go after him or you know, leave someone to die. And it's such a big thing in the movie because that's why he turns, that's why he fights the war at the end. Which again, then he only gives in at the end of the war because of love, not really to do with the kingdom. He kind of looks around and goes like, what have I done, as he sees all his friends dying. But he knew that going in. It's such a big part of the movie, and it's just been like, I don't know, another scene or something, or just him trying to explain, and maybe him just, and then Wakabi just going like, no, you know what, I've had enough. It would have been really fast, but he just didn't try to explain it. It just kind of annoyed me. But apart from that, yeah, awesome fight. The casino fight with the one shot was great.
Yeah.
M'Baku, who could probably get his own Disney spin-off series. He's great when he says he's going to eat children, and then he's like, no, we're vegetarians. Yeah, I'm going to give it 4.75 because the CGI was a bit near sometimes, and say some of the things like that, what I just brought up. 4.75 women traffickers that they just left at the start of the film when Black Panther saved all the people being trafficked. Yeah, taken trafficked. Yeah,
I'm just gonna
out
let
of
you
the country.
Suffer, trying to get that line out.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for that. She was picking up his girlfriend, Nikkei. Oh shit! I only watched it a couple of days ago.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, picked her up and said, "I want you for the ceremony," and then just left all the women there, like,
Yeah.
just stranded. Like,
See you later.
That's a shit king.
Awesome.
Nice. What about you,
Yeah,
Matt?
for me, you know, the reason that I asked about as a movie without all the contextual referencing and the cultural referencing, like, I kind of found it, because it really dived into, you know, like a very human level. The first time I watched it, I remember being a bit like, oh, I have to admit, a little bit underwhelmed by the movie. And the more times that I've watched it, the more that I appreciate all the nuances and the journey that T'Challa goes on, and, you know, the land of Wakanda. So I still don't know if Black Panther as a comic book movie on its own is a 5 out of 5 for me. However, with what we've talked about, and with its standing, and with its release time and whatnot, and what it did for the world at a time when the world was divisive and burning, you know, it brought such healing, and it brought so much emotion and kind of clarity in so many ways that I can't not give it, for its impact on planet Earth, anything less than 5 out of 5. Like, it's an incredible movie anyway, but you'll be able to watch this movie 30, 40 years' time and be able to reflect on the world as it was, watching this movie and seeing, hopefully, even more progressively, the positive change that it had. So, yeah, absolute respect and kudos to Marvel, to everyone involved in the production. And, yeah, it's 5 taking one of them mini beads that seems to just do whatever you want it to and shoving it in a bullet wound out of 5.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
like it really, that makes me crawl every time. Anything that's like surface wound, just got to fill a hole with a metal bead.
I like it puts Martin Freeman to sleep, but the first time I was like, shit, just kill him. He like kind of stops like rustling in pain and just kind of gives in. I'm like, oh shit, he's gone.
Yeah.
Cool. So there we go, everybody. It's an absolute rave rating from us. Do go and see it and enjoy it 1,000,001 times. Before, of course, Black Panther. Before Black Panther, Wakanda Forever comes out this cinema very soon. And with that, there's only one thing left to do, gentlemen. It's time to get your sequels pitched. This week I am going to go in alphabetical order. Andy Henry, you're up first. What is the title in your blurb?
My title is Black Panther 2 New World or Black Panther 2 A Nation Under Our Feet.
No, you've lost. Where the fuck are your funny? I couldn't think of anything funny. Sequel titles?
The only thing I could think of funny, this one, was Black Panther 2 The Panther Strikes Again, because it's similar to the Pink Panther Strikes Again. So, but I don't know if I just said Black Panther 2 Strikes Again, you would have got it. That's the only thing I could think of. So,
Black Panther 2 Paw Patrol. Black Panther 2 getting your teeth into it. It's fine. We'll let you fly. You know what?
The claws
I'm only going to deduct a little point from you because you've tried.
Yeah.
But
getting your teeth into it.
Go for it. What's your blurb?
My blurb is when T'Challa is called away from the kingdom, Shuri is put in charge and tries not to lose her head as she takes on a new threat.
Amazing. Take it away.
Okay, so we open with Wakanda after it's opened its doors and shared its intelligence, and it's helped the world and Wakanda as much as it's hurt it. This first bit is basically highlighting like immigration, tourism kind of being a bit of a problem, as the people are wanting to come in, explore, see Wakanda, maybe stay illegally. And the Wakandan tech has evolved crime outside of Wakanda, and now there's maybe a bit of crime inside Wakanda. Chance for some maybe like low-key Black Panther villains. And then there's news of a civil war happening on... basically the people of Wakanda are split. You know, are they actually happy? Are they not? Things people were talking about in the first film, being scared of is kind of coming true.
I've got to be a real pain in the ass here. Just because obviously the cinematic universe is so huge, and I probably should have said this before. Is this set in canon with the movies? So have we had Endgame, or is this straight after the first?
I think this is...
Have we had the 5-year snap and stuff, just so that we as an audience understand where we're at with your movie?
I think... trying to think of... I think it could be after the snap. There's nothing too important. I think that needs to be happening now. So it could
just
be
5 years.
Yeah. Just 5 years down the line.
Awesome, thank you.
There's a civil war happening in a neighboring country, and a man, played by Danny Pudi, is close to death, and he kind of stumbles across the Wakanda border looking for refuge. He gets visited by T'Challa in the hospital, and he tells T'Challa of the horrors happening in his country because of the weapons that came from Wakanda, and how a dictator has rose to power. T'Challa holds a council meeting, decides to welcome refugees to Wakanda. Some people protest, but he says it's his kingly duty to help. So T'Challa puts the man in charge of helping refugees get rehomed, and he puts Shuri in charge of the refugee program. And then T'Challa gets called away to America for either like an unknown Avengers-style threat, or it could be something happening in the embassy or what he set up in the first film. Mm-hmm. Either way, he leaves and he puts Shuri in charge, who's second in command of the palace anyway. So she's now like in charge. She and the man help refugees, and they get called away, or they have to go into the neighboring country, and they get in a fight with a large figure, like a shadowed figure, and the audience don't see his face, and he knocks out Shuri, but the man manages to carry her to safety back home. As Shuri's getting patched up, she and the man start to get close and start to get to know each other, and sparks start to fly. We hear then there's something that's happened in America, maybe like an explosion. Let's just say it's like an explosion to keep it simple. There's an explosion that's happened in the embassy in America. Shuri tries to reach T'Challa but can't. Everything's offline. They hold a council meeting to decide what to do, and they decide Shuri now must become the Black Panther, and as well as the new queen of Wakanda. The man starts to gain popularity in Wakanda because he's so good and generous, and he's smart, and he's helping like new ideas. So they agreed to make him an honorary council member while his people stay in their country. The man kind of thanks and stands up and he says a rebel soldier from his country has snuck his way in and as a refugee and killed 3 families. So he convinces the council to take the Wakandan armies into his country to kill the dictator, and then he convinces them to shut their borders basically because he's like, we don't know who we can trust now, so they can't take anyone else. And then Shuri says that she won't take the armies, but she'll go as the Black Panther alone. And then, depending on where they are relationship-wise, this could either be like their first kiss, or if they have a first kiss when she's getting patched up, then he could propose, and she says yes. So she's like, "Oh, I can trust you. I trust you enough, basically, to kind of leave you in charge of Wakanda as I go to the country." Black Panther then fights her way through all the goons and stuff until she gets to the unknown dictator, and we find out it's Kraven the Hunter. Ooh. We get his backstory, and maybe we see some of his prizes, hanging on a wall or in a briefcase or something, I don't know. And another chance for some low-key Marvel characters or creatures, and maybe Howard the Duck could be in there. Kraven says he was paid to start this civil war, and his prize was the head of the Black Panther. They fight, but Black Panther wins, and then heads back. When Shuri heads back, she's confused, and she's a bit like, oh, who's paid Kraven to basically come and start a war? And as she kind of walks into the palace, she finds members of her family and the council are murdered, and she walks into a room to find the man holding a wooden ventriloquist dummy about to kill Shuri's mum. And come and ask me about this in a minute, because the dummy has significance in the story. But yeah, he's holding a wooden dummy about to kill her mum. Shuri's like, what the fuck's going on? Tries to attack him, but then he knocks her across the room. And she flies across the room, and then he kind of stands up, and then the puppet stands up, comes to life, catches fire, and then he narrates his backstory, which is basically 300 years ago there was another war, and this man let soldiers stay in his house, and they repaid his kindness by burning his farm, seducing his wife, and then leaving him for dead. The man survived by selling his soul to a red devil, and went on to kill everyone who seduced his wife, and then he vowed to kill anyone from the family of those men, and anyone who ever interacted, spoke to, had connected to those men at all. He was like, I'm going to kill them. So over the years, the Red Devil kept him alive so he could do this, and we have a little montage of him going to Yale Law School, earning multiple degrees in psychology, politics, and divinity. We see snapshots of him making connections with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, and showing he's part of he was very influential in major moments in history. He reveals that he caused the explosion in the Wakandan embassy, and because Shuri's family is connected either through DNA or something, so he wants to kill everyone connected with Shuri, her family, and also bring down Wakanda, the country that they love. So the man, infused with the devil magic, releases and controls Wakanda's last line of defense, which is from the comics. Gigantic robot panthers called Prowlers. They start destroying Wakanda and stuff, and this makes the people of Wakanda come together and fight them, but also gives the side characters something to fight as well. Black Panther and the man fight, and Black Panther realizes she needs to destroy the puppet to break the connection between him and the devil. She eventually does, and the man hears the devil's voice saying that he's not strong enough to do what is needed, and strips him of his power and says he will go for a stronger body, or a stronger source. Shuri then goes to kill the man, but he gets away. Get away. So the end is basically Shuri and her mother, maybe the only surviving member of the family or the council, depending on how far we want to go into that. They're talking about rebuilding Wakanda and have reopened the borders, saying they still want to help people, and then they kind of look down and they see refugees are helping to rebuild and stuff, so everyone's helping, everything's happy. They say they're still searching for the man because he's dangerous, he's high, even without the devil, he's still highly intelligent. He's basically the Lex Luthor / Joker of the Marvel. And they get beeps or something, or maybe a clue, but then they get a message from Nick Fury saying that he needs the Black Panther now. And then we cut to credits, and then my after credit scene is Kraven, who's not dead. Maybe the Black Panther pulled a house down or something, so he kind of shoots his hand out of the rubble and stuff, and he's and he pulls himself out, and then he realizes he underestimated Black Panther, and he pulls out his list of other targets. And there's different character names, and number 1 is Spider-Man, or Wolverine, or Charizard.
They are all three very important Marvel characters. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I would if I was in my universe. Yeah, I'd make Kevin Feige go after fucking Pokemon and bring him in.
Thank you very much, on very detailed pitch there.
Sorry, a bit of a long one, but
Marvel films always bring this out.
Full
of us, I think. We get used to it.
Yeah.
A couple of questions for you. So, context, listeners, I told the gents this week that obviously with the Chadwick Boseman situation, they were free to make a spiritual sequel, in an ideal world, or they were welcome to obviously respect real life events with Chadwick's passing and find an alternate route. Andy, you actually did both, interestingly. What was your decision about that?
So my initial idea was the idea is until T'Challa gets called away to America, all that could be narrated or like in a montage or like pictures. If you think what was it, Spider-Man Homecoming, when he's filming all that behind the scenes stuff of what happens in Civil War, it'd be derivative. But if you just imagine like Shuri updating her Instagram saying all this has happened and stuff, and now I'm and now my brother's gone and this is where we are, and then like the man could come in and stuff. So
so we don't see T'Challa technically in that.
No.
Right,
I mean, okay. We don't. It would just be shoulder, over the shoulder shots or something like that. So we wouldn't actually see him or hear him or anything like that.
Cool.
And again, it kind of leaves. It doesn't show much. So it doesn't show he's dead in the actual pitch. If we don't want to kill T'Challa, so he could come back in my third.
Awesome. My only other question is with Shuri and this man. Obviously, Marvel and Black Panther particularly very much.
Chaby, I think his name is.
Chaby.
Chaby, yeah. But his backstories are quite unknown, but he's just known as Bob as well. A lot of people, and I was like, I can't call him Bob because Frost is not going to take me seriously. If I like in Wakanda, if someone comes in and he's like, "What's your name?" It's Bob. Like, nah, I'll call him the man. It's a bit more.
I'm sure we'll some questions actually, and I won't necessarily ask that question. Thinking about it, it could well be something Ross brings up anyway. My question then for Bob or Shaby is this a character you've created, or is this a character that's related?
This is me kind of Googling Black Panther, because I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to do a Black Panther villain or like a Shuri Black Panther villain, but I just Googled kind of Black Panther villains. And this one came up and it's not too well known, because again, he's not like a physical presence. He is highly intelligent, and think of him like the Lex Luthor / Joker, but not so crazy. So he is there, and I think he'd be great to see. And as soon as I thought of him, I don't know why, but Danny Pudi I think would be great, and it's just a way of someone getting into Wakanda and trying to take it down from the inside.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, Achebe, I believe his name is Achebe.
I'm gonna have to look that guy up, find out more about him. Okay, that is it from me.
Oh shit! Sorry, the puppet as well. I didn't mention. Sorry. So in the comics, Achebe talks to Mephisto through a hand puppet. But that I don't know if the MCU could pull that off. So in my pitch, Shuri would have already walked in on him once or twice talking to this puppet, but he would have said like, "Oh, I made this puppet for my son who died in the Civil War. So when I talk to the puppet, it's almost like talking to him." So it's like supposed to be really sweet and not at all like suspicious until at the end of the film when he's basically being told by the puppet to murder people.
You're very lucky you stopped me there because you just so casually chucked in Mephisto right at the end. Not part of your pitch. Not part of your pitch or anything.
He's the Red Devil. Hey. I was gonna say I don't want to give it away. It's just he was infused. Maybe he wasn't Mephisto. Maybe it was just another Red Devil.
This producer's kind tonight. He's gonna let that one be part of the pitch. Right, closing you off before you throw any more crazy shit into your pitch. Ross, coming over to you, pal. What is your title and blurb, please?
My title is Black Panther 2. Usizi, which is Sosa, I think, or Sos. Basically, it's the East African word for sorrow, because I think, reeling from the death of their king, Wakanda look to find a new king or queen to lead, but not all is as it seems.
Exciting. Take it away.
The film opens and we get audio of various news reports that the king of Wakanda has died. Now, I'm not sure whether or not he was killed or he died from an illness, but obviously I want it to be respectful in terms of T'Challa and also the actor as well. Then we get aerial views of Wakanda and East Africa with some African-inspired orchestral music and singing. We see Shuri. She is looking out on the city of Wakanda. She's holding T'Challa's necklace and crying. Her mother approaches and they have a lovely scene in which they talk about the death and how Ramonda has lost everything. Like, she's lost her husband, she's lost now her son, and the only person left is now Shuri. And that Shuri is so important to her and that she can't lose her as well. They both cry and hug each other, and then it goes to the title card. Not the Marvel title card, but the title card of the movie. We then have a scene in the council room of Wakanda. Everyone is talking about who will be the next king or queen of Wakanda. Next in line would obviously be Shuri. They talk about the fact that Wakanda are now known to the world and they need someone to lead. Shuri says she doesn't want to be queen. Arguments ensue and it is broken by Ramonda just shouting and giving an impassionate speech about her loss, and that they should not be fighting over this as they have not had a chance to mourn the loss of T'Challa or even buried him yet. We then have a ceremonial funeral for T'Challa. In this, I will draw on actual East African traditions. We won't see the actual physical body of Chadwick, but there may be a suit or a coffin depending on what the tradition in Africa is of burying. And, I want to take my time with this, so it would be about 10 to 15 minutes of the film to allow the audience to feel that loss of that character. All the different tribes are there, and Nakia is there, and she makes an emotional speech about how T'Challa as a king changed so much for the world and the people of Wakanda. Then she goes into talking about how much she loved him, and it ends with her bursting into tears. The scene ends with all at the funeral chanting T'Challa forever. The next portion of the movie can be some character development scenes in the wake of T'Challa's death and how they deal with it, especially another scene of Shuri and Ramonda. Now, Shuri doesn't want to be queen, and Ramonda is also reluctant to let her daughter lead because, one, she's really young, and also, two, she also doesn't want her to become the queen because she doesn't want to lose her. So they suggest a tournament in which all the tribes select their best suited to become the king or queen. Shuri ends up leaving Wakanda to find herself. She ends up leaving Wakanda saying she can't be here anymore because it reminds her too much of T'Challa. So they put on this tournament, and it will be heavily influenced by East African culture again. Some people selected are M'Baku, Wakabi as well, and we can introduce some other tribes and get some up-and-coming actors as well to play them. So we see the tournament played out. Maybe there is 3 tests to see if you are fit to be king or something, and M'Baku ends up winning the tournament and being crowned king. Maybe the last test is the fight at the waterfall or something along those lines. But yeah, we then have some passage of time and see Shuri. She's working for UNICEF or something, and she gets a visit from Everett. He tells her that Wakanda has stopped all trading with everyone and has turned reclusive again. M'Baku ceased all communications and has locked the city away, and namely the vibranium mines. So she goes to check it out and finds all of her family members living with the Wakabi's tribe. Ramonda tells her as soon as she left, M'Baku became obsessed with the vibranium mines, and then they kicked everyone out of Wakanda except his followers and his army. Ramonda says that they need the Black Panther. And then we have another touching scene of her mother handing her a vial which contains the plant extract. And she says she's been saving this for her one day to become the Black Panther. She also hands her a necklace and says I took this before we were ushered out of the palace. The next scene is the highlight of the movie. This, I really want, this would be kind of like the bit where he speaks to his dad, But Shuri takes the extract and she's transported to the astral plane. And in the distance, she can see the panthers, with the white beaming eyes on the tree. And behind them, she can see a figure. That his figure is with her back to him. His figure has his back to her. She calls out, and T'Challa responds. And the way we'll do this, we'll either use audio from the films to get the dialogue, or whichever way we can do it. They have a conversation of how Shuri feels that she's not ready to take up the mantle, and she doesn't want to disappoint T'Challa. He responds with, "You've never been a disappointment to me," and with that, the other Black Panthers, including T'Challa's father, appears, and he says, "It's time, my son." T'Challa then says to Shuri, "It's your time, sister. Goodbye." And with that, she wakes and she dons the necklace, and it's a new Black Panther, and is the new Black Panther. We then have an action scene. So basically, Shuri infiltrates Wakanda using her new stealth Black Panther suit, and yes, there is one in the comics. She finds out that actually M'Baku is and his army are all Skrull, and he is named, insert Skrull evil name here, leader of an evil faction still hell-bent on taking over the world, and their plan is to use the vibranium to take over the world, to use the weapons. She maybe frees the real M'Baku and maybe some of his followers, and they fight their way to the boss with the Skrull version of M'Baku. She calls her mum needing help, and the exiles of Wakanda and all the other tribes have a fight outside of Wakanda, similar to sort of outside, where they're all running at each other and stuff. With the Skrulls eventually overpowering, the people from Wakanda overpowering the Skrulls, and then the remaining ones escape. Shuri is named the new queen, and then that's the end of the movie. And there's a post-credit scene where Nick Fury turns up and says, "Hey, I know the Skrulls," and then we lead to Secret
Brilliant.
Wars, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Can you imagine waiting all that time for the credits to come out? And he literally opens the doors and goes, "I know about the Skrulls." Credits. And you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. There you
Awesome
go.
stuff. Thank you very much. Two very different pitches. Ross, a couple of questions. The first one is, obviously, it's so interesting listening to both of your pitches and listening to your comments earlier about what you want and what you expect from Marvel in the movies. This is very clearly what you'd want to see in the Marvel sequel as much as anything. It feels like a very honest sequel pitch. In what ways do you kind of keep, especially kind of the end of Act 2 into Act 3, suddenly we start going like uber Marvel. In what ways do you appeal to those Marvel fans in that kind of first act and a half?
I think it's dealing with the. I still think that even though it's a Marvel movie, I still think that people love those characters and it's about the politics of what happens when T'Challa goes, and if Shuri doesn't want to take up the mantle, and her being not ready and also too young, and also I want this as much as, for me, Black Panther was a different Marvel movie. Yes, it had the end, stereotypical bad guy. I still want it to be very different in terms of focusing on the characters and the outcomes of a death of one of these superheroes. I don't think that just because I focus on the characters, it necessarily won't interest anyone coming to see that, because you can't not comment on it and you can't not focus on it as a Marvel movie. And I've still got the whole, it's about Shuri's journey a little bit, and I can elongate, the end act being, because really Black Panther, Killmonger doesn't do anything. It gets superhero near the end again, similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what. Yeah, shut up.
Awesome. Only other question: kind of assuming this is set in canon, so this is after Endgame and whatnot.
Yeah.
In what ways has Wakanda changed in that time? Because it very much feels like we've put it on ice.
So they are very much trading with the world and helping the world, and then as soon as and because T'Challa's gone, because he dies, they're like, fuck, we have all these connections with the outside world now, and our king is not here to lead us. And they're a bit like, what the fuck do we do? And they've got all the different tribes in the council saying, we should do this, we should do that. Like we can focus on that as well in the film, where some people want different things. Whereas, is that the right thing? We don't know. And then M'Baku comes and then freezes all of that. And that's why Everett comes and goes, look, we trade with the Wakanda now, and that's not there anymore.
Cool. Thanks so much, gents. I know we say it quite a lot, but I fucking love both of these pitches, by the way. I'm just going to throw it out there now. I've enjoyed hosting this episode more than I've enjoyed hosting most episodes because these are two genuinely really cool sequel pitches. So I genuinely do need you to have a proper debate now and tell me why I should pick your film, because I would love to watch both of these in a couple of weeks' time at the cinema, and I'll be like, boys, you fucking nailed it. I love it. So please, I'm going to take a minute back and you two tell me why I should pick your movie over the other.
I'll go first because Ross has got a good idea, but yeah, until things start going in like end of Act 2, start of Act 3, there's no stakes, no obstacles, there's nothing for the main characters to kind of do apart from just do this tournament. So yeah, what's the audience, gonna watch for an hour? Is it after the funeral? Is it just gonna be a tournament? And
it's gonna be Shuri's journey about how she's just lost her fucking brother and her dealing with it.
Is she involved in the tournament?
No, she's left. There may be scenes where she is told about it by her mother, but she's not there. Yeah. The whole thing is she needs to leave Wakanda because it reminds her too much of her brother.
So we don't even have Shuri, and are we staying on Shuri and not showing the tournament, or we only showing little snippets? Or
it's not going to be for the whole entire movie. She's gone for the portion of the tournament, and then there's a flash forward of time. So either does it 3 years later or whatever, or a year later. I don't know.
Yeah, but that first hour, what's the audience watching?
They're watching the fact that one of the fucking actors who played Black Panther fucking died too young. So
then after that, what are they doing? They got nothing. There's no story starting. There's no story expanding. You just got this tournament, and then she just goes off.
You don't need to specifically have. Oh, there must be a story. There must be a thing for the characters. They are dealing with are dealing with the fact that their fucking king's dead. Yours, you just go, I'm just going to pop to America and just do... that gives no justice to T'Challa or the actor that played him. I deal with the fucking fact that he was a fucking good guy and that I want to take the time to fucking say goodbye to him and the character and the actor that played him by giving that moment and the gravitas of the effects of him playing and using the actors to use their real life speech about working with the actor, but also about the fact that I want Ramonda to really fucking go hell for leather when she's having these conversations with her daughter, and also I think there's enough there character building to then push this movie, and it will be a totally different Marvel movie. I'll give you that, but it's a proper in-depth character drama. For me.
It'd be interesting to have this big funeral and then be respectful by having a big fight afterwards.
Well,
but there's still not enough. There's not. So and Shuri's gone for this whole time. So are you just going to have a fight?
She's
and
not
then
gone.
In the night they talk about T'Challa.
When she says, "I need to go before the tournament starts."
Yeah.
And then
But she's not involved in the tournament as well. So like, just nothing seems to be happening in this.
What
first
do you mean
hour,
the tournament happens?
Fights. Yeah, apart from that, but like character development or anything like that, like what else is going on? Like what are your characters learning?
What do you mean
there's nothing for them. What are they learning? They're getting T'Challa fine. Yeah, so they're fighting. They fight in the day and then they like learn and talk about T'Challa at the night and stuff. But what, like, you can't just have that for an hour.
Yes, I can. That's my fucking sequel bit.
Oh, if you want then, but people will get bored. There's just no development. You've got an hour of just like. Like a battle royale.
From the first hour. We've still got another 2.5 hours of a movie to discuss.
Yeah.
Can't carry on.
Okay. I like how the aliens need vibranium to take over the world. They just can't. You know, the aliens. I'm sure they got alien tech. They can
they're Skrulls. They only can have the ability to transform into people, and they want to use the vibranium weapons. To they're a faction of the Skrulls. They're not like every Skrull, because there's Skrulls that actually because. It's established in Captain Marvel. There are actually Skrulls that want to use Earth as a place to stay, and whereas there is actually like a fucking core, like the Skrulls want to fucking take over the whole universe, and there's a core load of them in, and then leads up to Secret War with fucking.
It's just weak in terms of a villain. M'Baku, I think you're doing dirty because the audience, even though he's a Skrull and he is supposed to be evil, but that's like shown at the end. We've had the whole first movie with him being good, so suddenly to hear him just suddenly change like, such a
why the fuck is M'Baku
such a
doing
right
this?
Left turn is like it just doesn't add up. Like, but why?
Because he's a Skrull and he wants to use he.
Yeah, but the audience don't know that, and it's not satisfying to just have this sudden leap for a character who was like at the end of the first film helped them fucking take Wakanda back to suddenly go, I'm going to close the border and do all this.
That's why they're like, what the fuck?
Plus, you've got no Black Panther until the third fucking act.
You need the build up to her accepting the mantle.
You need the tournament,
and you've got a fucking lovely moment.
Black Panther 2,
T'Challa saying goodbye to his
sister.
Yours
is a Tekken movie. That's what yours is. Yours is a Tekken movie. That's what yours is.
You've got like a lovely, you've got T'Challa saying that she is ready, and that
yeah, in that and like at the end of like Act 2,
because I guarantee you that's what's going to happen.
So I've got to get there first after just fight. Talk about T'Challa. Fight. Talk about T'Challa. Shuri going, I can't do this.
Because
fight. Talk about T'Challa. Well, I've got important like political issues.
You got fucking
immigration, I've got tourism. I've got everything going. Yeah, that's from the fucking comics. That's how he talks to Mephisto.
You should put it in a fucking film just because there's lots of.
No, he's got a hand puppet, so I've changed it and I've made a character related. So he's built this puppet to give to his son.
Pinocchio, okay, evil Pinocchio,
a badass Pinocchio. But I've still got things happening in my first hour, like people trying to help, him coming in, him sowing seeds, kind of turning everyone against each other. It's a much better
Craven, who's just introduced willy-nilly, not even just, there's Craven as well. There we go.
Well, he was paid to get, he was paid to get a trophy, and his trophy was a Black Panther head. That's how he wanted it. So him and the Archer Bay was a bit like, I can use him, basically. So yeah, we introduced Craven. And we have a great character.
You've
and
got
it's just more interesting.
Like, honestly, a fucking puppet.
No, we've got a smart guy. We've got the Lex Luthor, basically, of Marvel.
No,
this is what
that's what you called him. That's not what.
No, that's what the internet calls him. He's the Joker to Black Panther is what people see him, but I'm trying to turn him more into a Lex Luthor.
Well, you can tell the people on the internet to piss off.
Okay.
Oh, I'll tell them all that.
And you can have
every single one of them.
I'm just going to say, I'm stopping it in. I've been imagining you both in your pants the whole time because that's what I said at the start. Listeners, they're both going to put a fight in their underwear so you can visually see what I've just been watching in my hide for the last 5 minutes. Good debate. It's clearly an impassioned film and it's an impassioned franchise, and you clearly shared that passion in your debate just now. I have made a decision, and this is in no way, I'm saying again, this is in no way to discredit the other pitch because I love both pitches. So, taking my decision into account, going alphabetically again, Andy, it's I love the pitch. It feels like a comic book movie. It absolutely feels like something Marvel would do with the franchise, by introducing and subserviently introducing villains like Mephisto and dropping Kraven in. Yeah, I hope we'd establish a bit more about Kraven because there is a lot there, but still a nice way of doing it. You're definitely hammering home that it's a Black Panther movie. But yeah, I do wonder if me wonders if sending T'Challa off to America and not necessarily giving Chadwick the send off that he deserves may not sit well with some people, and yeah, it's perhaps kind of looking over the top of real life in some ways, but that was what I kind of offered you. But then you said you wanted to make this relevant to real life because we'll just have him in the cut. So that's why I had to ask that question. But yeah, very much an action-packed Marvel film. With Ross, very much the opposite. It's very much a human film. And, you've said it's exactly what you'd want from a Marvel sequel. That isn't a negative in any way. It's certainly slower. It takes its time. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's emotional. It certainly is. I could kind of feel myself going on that journey a bit, and there could perhaps be the risk that it may start small, but it does grow. Into Act 2 and into Act 3. Certainly that Marvel comic essence feels, and you said it yourself. This won't be a normal Marvel film, so it's not like you've written it to be one that doesn't hit the marks. You've very much written this to be its own product. Love kind of how it ends and bringing in the squad. Clearly, both of you have thought about the future franchise with Secret Wars and obviously bringing in Mephisto and stuff as well. I'm gonna go. It's kind of like, do you go with the head and with the spectacle, or do you go with the heart and the emotion on this one? And I am very sorry, Andy, but this week's winner is because. No. I'll tell you why.
The one good, he's got one good scene, and that's it. He's got one good scene. Your scene of the Black Panther, which doesn't even have T'Challa in, it's got the back of his head. Because he's dead. But that's a good scene. And then you've got a whole hour of just, I'll be so bored in your movie,
because,
man.
Look, I am a dad. I'm an emotional man. I've always said that I go for the emotional films, and I want what Ross wants from the sequel, I think, and I fully respect Andy that it isn't going to please everyone. That is my point. This sequel won't please... Now, if the sequel is emotional as Ross has made his first hour and a half, I'm going to just be crying the whole time and thinking it's the most magical thing I'm watching. It will get 6 out of 5 for me if we do a sequel pitch for it, because, you can't get away from Chadwick's passing, and you can't get away from how much... as an actor he did and as a character it influenced what we now watch as a Marvel film because of things like Miss Marvel, She-Hulk. We talked about it all before. It can span into something bigger. Obviously, the Black Panther franchise doesn't end after this movie. You've both done it. You've both carried Black Panther into future films. So not every film needs to be 100 miles an hour. But Andy, don't get me wrong, if it is that Marvel go with your route and they just kind of brush over it, I'll be a bit upset about it as a person, but I may well forget it when it's done cinematically.
The only reason
the
only reason I didn't actually, the only reason I probably didn't kill him off is because I just didn't know what the honest plans were. So I thought was if I was actually being Marvel, I would do it as well as this. I really hope they don't have.
I would say I've got a feeling Andy they're gonna.
I'll spoil it for you now. Because they're all in there. There's trailer breakdowns of them all wearing white in the trailer, and that signifies that they're all wearing white because it's a funeral and a mourning. Because they all usually wear black and stuff, and so when they're wearing white, it's about a funeral.
I think it should be its own hour-long Disney special or something as a proper tribute to Chadwick. Have the funeral of Black Panther. That would be the way I would personally do it. Because they say I don't think you can do it respectfully within 20 minutes, because you're going to have him. He's going to have to sacrifice himself to have a good a good funeral. Basically, he can't die of an illness because he's got the black herb and stuff. So he's supposed to keep him alive and help him. So. And if we don't see him die, if he died at the hands of, say, like Thanos, and then we started this with like a funeral, that will kind of be fine. But yeah, I don't want to see Black Panther on screen, and to have a funeral.
Let's see. We can only see, can't we? Yeah.
And he's going to hate Black Wakanda
perhaps
Forever.
Perhaps it's time for another spoiler cast. Perhaps the four of us need to get together and get together to really talk about it, because it is going to be divisive.
That'd be quite a good
I've got no doubt about it. But ultimately, it serves a franchise and a purpose. So let's just see. But yes, Andy, that is in no way in detriment to your movie. It's just Ross's resonates more with the soft git satire. That for me, scene could be a bit Ross over.
One good scene, and then I'll
just leave.
There's a lot. No,
if I'm going to have an hour of a tournament,
I'll
come in at the end.
That entertaining. There's a lot of he was constantly referencing African culture in there. We're going to get to see a lot more of what made Black Panther special. So, my decision is final. Basically, shut the fuck up, Andy. I have decided that Ross is this week's winner. Ross, what are we pitching next episode, pal?
Okay, well, in honor of a movie sequel that nobody wanted,
God.
And in
it's
honor
not Twister.
In honor of the next 7 movies that are probably going to come after it, we are going back all the way to 2009 to do James Cameron's groundbreaking 3D spectacular. Only see it in the cinema because that's the only place you can see it. Avatar.
Yay. Andy, you win. I changed my mind. What we're doing.
I hate this film. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, wow. Great. Avatar. We're going epic after epic. There you go, listeners. Thank you so much for listening. And always, did I make the right choice? It'd be very interesting to hear exactly what we talked about. What are you looking forward to? What are you hoping for from Marvel and Disney as they release Wakanda Forever? Are you looking for that emotional journey that Ross and I are looking for? Or are you looking for something that handles it diplomatically and moves and keeps the pace and keeps the themes like Andy wants? Let us know. You can find us on social media. Just search for Sequel Pitch. We're there. We're the first one. We're the number one for everything Sequel Pitch related. Hey, we also, it's worth noting, we love making these recordings, even when we lose, right, Andy? We still love doing it. He doesn't. I hope he doesn't mean it. But look, if you love listening to it as well, you can, of course, support the podcast, help us grow. We do have a Patreon. Get on patreon.com/sequel pitch. If you can help us out, if you can support us, that means we keep the lights on. It means we get to keep coming back and doing this and delivering more of the trial by combat that we love to do in that debate section. We are friends, I promise. But for now, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Until next episode, it is goodbye from this week's runner-up trialist, Andy Henry.
Wakanda Forever to T'Challa Forever.
Yeah.
That's cute. Yeah. Goodbye to from this week's winner, Ross Armstrong.
Wakanda Forever.
And it's goodbye from me, your host. Rest in peace, Chadwick. You were inspiration, and it is worth noting you've done incredible work. Thank you for everything you've done. Join us next episode as we pitch sequels to James Cameron's Avatar. Bye, folks.
Bye.